Right, welcome to Rambling Achieved. Apologies for this coming out a little bit late. Recording this on the 4th. Tried to get these up on the final day of the month, but me and Brandon did that really long video, so I wanted to make sure that I had room to breathe because it was doing actually fairly well numbers wise. So it was on track to hitting triple figures, which it did. So I didn't want to kind of disrupt that, and then also, oh my god, have been absolutely devoured by Resident Evil Requiem. Um, Thought potentially I'd be able to slip it in here. I have technically finished it as of this point, but it didn't quite make the February cutoff point. So yeah, for February it's looking like one, two, three, I think 4 games I finished. So a fairly quiet month, but a month that was kind of very busy. So, but then 4 games, I'm happy to have knocked off a few of them. Some of them, especially one in particular, was one that I was really looking forward to last year, and didn't end up getting around to being able to beat it. So, yeah, we shall begin ranking the games. All right. So as you can see here, the 4 games that I did end up finishing were Lone Shark, Everspace, Call of Juarez, Gunslinger, and then Mafia The Old Country. So we'll kick things off with Lone Shark. A very surprising game, kind of came out of nowhere. I think it was announced in January to drop for the consoles just out of nowhere. Very cheap. I think it was like £5, maybe even less. And it immediately caught my eye because it kind of reminded me heavily of Inscription. In its kind of like darker kind of atmosphere that it's building and making things feel a little bit unsettling. And then it also seems to be balancing like Clover Pit's debt system. So like the entire premise of the game is that you're this fisherman who has taken out a huge loan basically to purchase this boat, and you're just fishing to pay off your debts. So every time you're throwing the lure in, you're getting fish back, and then they're giving you money back. And it's really short and really simple because you can literally finish the game in about 40 minutes. But it's kind of a cool little commentary on, because they even make fun of it in the credits, of maybe just not getting yourself into debt for silly things and stuff like that, making sure that you kind of stay in your lane. But yeah, it was kind of just an interesting little palette cleanser. Obviously, this isn't going to be something that is 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 game of the year contender kind of thing. It's just a cool little indie project. Very unique and artistic and stuff like that. But yeah, it was completely unexpected. Has a good sense of humor as well, and gets really dark in certain places, not just underneath the water, but like the tones and stuff like that. I know, having looked at the achievement list, because I was like, finished it pretty quickly, there are multiple different like routes and stuff, whereas I've only done what would essentially be just like the vanilla ending kind of thing. So I may plan on going back in the future and seeing how things differ. But like even just jumping in for that short amount of time, it was just a cool little smaller project that I haven't really heard anybody talk about, which is kind of unfortunate. But as you can see here, like you rip them out and then they're worth 15, but your debt is 999,999. So yeah, they get kind of funky with the uh with the plot and premise of the game. So, and yeah, there's not really much to say about it. It's kind of just what you see is what you get. You take the fish out, you de-gut it, and then you sell it, and then that's the whole gameplay loop. So yeah, that is Loan Shark. So we will go ahead and rank it now. For Loan Shark, I think I'm gonna put it in a B. It does exactly what it should do on the box. Nice little palette cleanser for me. I enjoyed my time with it. It's not going to be something that I'm going to think about in years to come as that kind of thing. It's just a nice little, as I said, palate cleanser is the only word I can really think of to use at describing it. Um, but yeah, definitely worth checking out. It's so low of like a price entry point. I don't think anybody's going to be really particularly disappointed with checking it out if they were to buy it, even if it's not on sale. So yeah, there we go. There's Loan Shark. Right, and then up next we have Everspace. And I remember this very fondly because this was one of the final games that Total Biscuit reviewed, I remember, if I'm not mistaken. Or, yeah, in like the final years of what he was doing. And I remember him breaking down the game, and I remember watching it back then. Um, he was kind of like one of the last people that I ended up watching for review content in that way because he just did such an incredible job at breaking down every aspect, making sure to not only cover a game like critically from plot, gameplay mechanics and stuff like that, but like making sure to dive deep into like the option settings. Like he took his job very seriously, and it's really unfortunate that he's no longer here. But yeah, I remember him covering Everspace and just being like, damn, like a roguelite that is like a spaceship flying game. Cool. Like aerial combat. It's kind of a cool premise. And I remember playing it roughly around launch, and I think probably got about halfway through a run, and then ended up bouncing out because it was a new thing. Like I hadn't experienced too many roguelites back then. Um, but having gone through and cleared it, like I did a run and beat it, which I'm counting that as a clear. I have kind of semi mixed feelings. Like the game is incredibly fun. You get a good amount of exploration. There's a ton of upgrading systems that get pulled between each run and stuff like that. They added like DLC to flesh the game out a little bit, having you interact with characters and factions and stuff like that. It still does feel a little bit light. Um, and the biggest thing that is like, if I was to have to sit here and try and recommend it, the big asterisk that would come along with it is holy hell, these runs are really long. Like you're talking for a successful run, you're easily breaching the hour mark. Um, and I believe that you can technically save and quit, but it's yeah, it's kind of difficult to do that with a roguelite. Putting it down and then picking it back up, it's weird, at least for me. Like I wouldn't sit there and save and quit in the middle of an Isaac run. But as you can see there, it breaks the map up very Slay the Spire-esque, and you choose the different routes and stuff like that, and you have your weapons at the top that you're managing and stuff like that. You have different ships as well. Like there's a ton of variety here, and it's definitely worth if you like spaceship combat games because we don't particularly get all that many of them. Like we had Chorus come out towards the launch of the Series X, I believe, and PS5 generation, but we haven't really seen all that many games take a stab at it. It's a very underappreciated setting for a game. So yeah, it's definitely worth it if you enjoy the types of settings that is. I didn't think it was all that hard to grasp either. I know you can play on like harder difficulties and stuff like that, but it felt balanced. The challenge. You do get absolutely whomped the first couple of runs, given how unequipped you are, because you're able to like upgrade basically everything about your ship, which was kind of cool. You end up getting different preset layouts as well, so starting weapons, which was cool. Um, oh, another thing I do want to unfortunately ding it for. You have that boost that I've just shown where you go really fast. You have to hold the left stick down. It's not, you can't toggle it, which is really annoying. And having to do that for an hour plus, because that's basically your 9 times out of 10, that's your way of traversing through the level. So your thumb is going to be hella sore. Like, I would assume it's probably nicer to play on a keyboard and mouse than it is a controller for that very reason. It's probably a lot more easier to have that. But yeah, it was a really fun game, really interesting. It got a sequel fairly recently, and I don't think it's a roguelite. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it's moved away from that as a genre. So it's going to be really interesting to dive into that at some point and see what they learned from this game, because this game had really good foundations. What this kind of reminds me of, actually, is the difference between, and I'm saying I'm hoping this for Everspace 2, but like the difference between laying out like an idea and then executing it with the sequel. And it makes me think of like Helldivers, is what I'm hoping that they've managed to do. It's obviously not going to be on that level, but laying down the foundation of a first game with these ideas, and they're puzzle pieces that are on the board, but they're not completely 100% fitting. And I'm hoping that that's what they end up, nailing with the sequel, because this is a really cool game, really fun, um, very underappreciated, and yeah, very much looking forward to seeing what they cook up with that sequel. So let's go ahead and rank it. Um, hmm. We can put it in the A tier. I think it's an A tier roguelite. I don't think it can be S tier, but it was a really damn fun roguelite. There aren't many aspects of the game that I felt were underbaked, and given that it is a spaceship in space and stuff like that, sci-fi setting, it's so rare that it kind of gives it an edge above everything else. If this was just a kind of a more generic setting that we see time and time again, it probably would have dropped down into B. But the fact that they've tried to tackle space in a meaningful way, I think that deserves to be an NA. And then we have up next Call of Juarez Gunslinger. So if you remember correctly, I believe January? Was it January? Let me have a quick look. I did the other Call of Juarez game, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have a look on the Discord. No, was it December? December. So it was December I did it. So in December I did Bound in Blood. And then I've just, I don't know, I've just had an itch to do more Western games. We don't really get many of them either, funnily enough. And I do remember I played a small sliver of this game many, many years ago. And I remember enjoying it and then just put it down for some reason. I don't know why. And having come back to it, I really love what they did here. This is definitely the best Call of Juarez game they did, bar none. It's one of the best Western first-person shooters ever. Just a really, really, really fun game. And everything that I kind of mildly criticized in Bound in Blood, they addressed here. The dueling feels a lot more intuitive and seems to click into place a lot better. It also covers, so what it does is it basically covers a lot of like Wild West names, so like Billy the Kid and stuff like that, and you're playing as this person called Silas Greaves, who's a bounty hunter who's on the screen right now with a hat, and he serves as like this unreliable narrator, which I think is a way of telling stories that I really do resonate with. It reminds me of Dragon Age 2, when Varric's sitting there being interrogated by Cassandra and he's telling all of these stories that him and Hawk got up to. And it's the type of thing where it's great because you can kind of exaggerate. Varric can exaggerate, just like Silas can exaggerate like what he was doing and stuff like that. And what's cool is in this, when he's going through and he's retelling these stories, he's narrating what he's doing, but then stuff will change in the level on the fly. Sometimes when somebody ends up interjecting with something, so that was kind of cool that they were doing that. Um, yeah, just a really, really cool, fun game. It's a little bit washed out in the way that it looks, but yeah, I think it's held up pretty damn well. But yeah, um, definitely hasn't held up like 100% visually. It's obviously a 360 game. It was also an arcade 360 game as well, so probably commanded a smaller budget. But the actual moment to moment gameplay, the gunplay, the handling like that is like super, super, super smooth and snappy. Like they definitely figured it out, and it's kind of unfortunate that they figured it out, and then we didn't really get anything after that. Um, I believe I think the cartel, either this or the cartel, was the last that we saw of the series. Kind of rumored to be making a comeback soon, which would be really, really awesome. But yeah, just definitely a hell of a lot warmer on this than I was on Bound in Blood. And hopefully we can see. I think Techland is the one who did this. I think it's their series. Hopefully we can see them take a stab at it yet again in the not so distant future. Because we also just, much like space games and stuff like that, you just don't really get that many westerns, and especially in like this arcade setting where like it's score attacks and stuff like that. It's really cool. So yeah. Now the real question is, where do I rank it? Um, hmm. I'm gonna say A, top of A. I don't think it's an S tier game, but it's better than Everspace. I feel. Um, just really good execution on their behalf. Um, I can't really think of many ways to improve it, if I'm being honest. But I don't think it's also perfect. So if if it looked a little bit nicer, um, I think it could have also done from being a tiny bit longer. So kind of fairly short game, all things considered. But I guess that's kind of where the time attack score system comes in. Maybe they expect people to repeat, 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 and try and beat their high scores, which you just don't really see as a game philosophy anymore. I think one of the only titles that still kind of tackles that and has like a fan base that's very rabid for it is kind of like the Resident Evil games, where it's not necessarily like a score. It's more like people trying to push to try and get it, like a speed run kind of thing. But yeah, A tier, and then we finally arrive at Mafia The Old Country, and yeah, we'll talk about this. Um, so this was one of the more anticipated games I had of last year. Was very much looking forward to it, and I am left feeling a little bit disappointed, if I'm being honest. Um, Performance is kind of wobbly at times, and obviously I'm talking about this from a Series X perspective. I don't know if it runs better on the PlayStation. I would hope it runs better on PC, but you had like frame rate dips and just things that really shouldn't be happening for a name like Mafia in this day and age. It's kind of unfortunate. I know this was hit at a lower price point, but yeah, there's just a certain level of quality that should be hit. Um, Really immersive game though. I will give them credit there. You're talking like incredibly high tier voice acting, which has kind of always been the thing for the series. It's kind of a huge part of its DNA. And then the immersion things, which were kind of cool, is that they've brought back the street sign things. I think they popped up in Mafia 3, where you don't like waypoint system something. So when you're on a car or something and you're barreling down, it will highlight like a street sign is there, and it will highlight the right side of it if you need to turn right instead of turning left. Like, it's a really cool immersion thing, but you're not having to open up the map. You're just organically driving, um, which is kind of cool. I do appreciate that. They heavily pushed in the trailers, obviously, the knife and the knife fights. I couldn't care less about them in the game, if I'm being honest. Like, it was kind of gimmicky at first, sure, but I don't think they particularly added much. It was a very abusable system, very easy to manipulate and stuff like that. And then also, like, sorry to stay negative, the shooting in this game is just really poor. I don't know what, like, it's a huge step back from the definitive edition of Mafia 1 and even Mafia 3. It just doesn't feel right. And I couldn't ever quite put my finger on it. It just feels stiff. And I don't know if that's meant to be, obviously he's untrained and they're trying to tap into that as like an immersion element per se. But yeah, just kind of strange. Also, I didn't like how the story unraveled. It felt like a lot of time skips in between stuff, because you have in like Mafia 2, when you're having your downtime, like as a perfect example, when you meet up with Joe and you're staying at his apartment, and there's just organic talking back and forth, and they kind of slow the game down a bit. It felt like they were very, very scared of slowing the game down too much because they want to keep people interested. But then they would have these really unnatural, weird time skips because they want to keep the pace up, which personally I felt kind of harmed the story. I couldn't really connect with any of the characters really when the inevitable deaths and stuff happened, like in all mafia and gang related games. It was just, yeah, it didn't really connect with me per se. But let me just quickly tab this down as a spoiler tag. So spoiler warning at 23 minutes. If you don't want any knowledge about the game whatsoever, just tab to the, well, this will be the end anyway, so thank you for watching. You can tab out and go about your day. But yeah, so a really cool thing that did happen in this game is that it's obviously set before all the other ones. You actually get to see Leo Galante in his early years and see like how he functioned, and he is one of my favorite characters of the series, like a really cool character from Mafia 2. And you get to see what he was doing here and kind of his roots to everything and tying everything together. That was really, really cool. I did enjoy that. Um, but yeah, it's a beautiful landscape of a game as well. Um, you just get to, there's no, it's really strange, really, really strange, because when you're going through Mafia 2 and Mafia 1, you're, I don't know, it just feels like it's more enjoyable to move between the mission parameters, and it just didn't feel like that here. I very willingly and happily replayed 1, 2, but with 3 and this, I don't know if I'll be ever going back. It just doesn't have that pull to me. I will happily admit I was kind of left feeling disappointed overall. It felt like it was more trying to be an Uncharted game more than anything would probably be the best way of describing it. More so than a Mafia game, in my opinion. And that's cool. I know this resonated with certain people, and others really enjoyed that kind of shift into that. This isn't where I would like it to personally go. So if this, when they inevitably release that next Mafia game, and I'll give it another chance, if it is more or less the same as this will probably be a series that I'll happily just be like, yeah, it's probably not for me. In the same way that, you know, original Resident Evil fans or Final Fantasy fans don't like the way that things are handled with the modern releases, this would probably be that for me. But yeah, that is it. So we will go ahead and rank that. And it's going to go at the bottom of B, unfortunately. Is where I'll throw that. Just, yeah, it's got quality, of course, written all over it in many of its ways, but it's just not. For me, it's definitely one of the weaker games. I think it may just about edge Mafia 3, but Mafia 1 and 2 stand head and shoulders above it, in my opinion. So there we go. That is the 4 games that I beat in February. Thank you very much for watching. If you somehow stumbled upon here before Brandon's channel, make sure to check out the description below, where his channel will be linked. He does awesome solo content, and we also collaborate fairly frequently. And yeah, if you want to join a Discord with like-minded gamers such as yourself, make sure to pop a comment down below, and I'll hit you back with the link. But thank you very much for watching, and hopefully see you in the next one.